Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to start off with a quick recap of what unfolded so far for the first 3 weeks of November. You can actually see here looking at the overall temperature anomalies for the last 7 days in complements of that polar vortex stretching out that sent in all the colder air into the lower 48. In fact, this is the last time we've seen something like this in November was all the way back in 2014. But nonetheless, it was pretty widespread cold for the last 7 days, dropping all the way down into South Texas with the entire lower 48 well below average temperatures for the last week. But before that, we had a lot of warmer conditions. Also, a lot of the colder conditions started out west. Here's the overall temperature anomalies for the last 3 weeks of November. The colder conditions started out west with that negative WPO, and then it shifted as we went towards deeper into the second half of November towards our eastern parts of the U.S. But before that, we've been plenty warm across much of the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. So even factoring in those much colder anomalies the last 7 days, you're still well above average, and those well above average temperatures led to that severe weather outbreak that unfolded in the first week of November that set up a tornado outbreak in a good chunk of East Texas going into Oklahoma as parts of Arkansas. Well, they saw over 10 tornadoes, and several of those were those EF3s and EF4 type varieties and did a lot of damage. In fact, those warmer temperatures also brought a hurricane that impacted Florida in and around the November the 10th time frame. And that was the last time we actually saw something like this was all the way back in 1985 when Hurricane Kate made landfall into Florida in that time frame. So it had been almost 40 years. And going forward with that polar vortex stretching event, then we just had that significant snowfall event that took place for that lake effect snow, where we saw 2 lakes with Erie and Ontario producing 6-foot snows. So that was crazy historic. It actually ended up being 80 inches into Orchard Park. But what's happening now? So the last week of November, if it's been this busy the first 3 weeks, you can expect the last week to be kind of crazy. And this is what was going to be taking place over the next week. So we're starting to see indications. We're getting a better feel on this next storm system that's going to be impacting your Thanksgiving, heading into your Thanksgiving weekend. So here's the latest NAM guidance, and the most significant impact will be talked about is the slowing down of this system, and that's exactly what's happening. So we're going to be seeing these buckling in the jet stream by the time we get into your Wednesday, heading into your Thanksgiving day. That's going to dive all the way down into portions of New Mexico and get into portions of Texas. At the same time, we have an active subtropical jet stream. You can actually see it traversing across from the Pacific, traversing just right over Texas. As that dip in the jet stream, that's going to be able to tap into some of that moisture down here in this active subtropical jet, and that's going to be a significant player on what's happening, especially with the slowness of this system. And we've been talking about this. So the trend, here's the negative, here's the NAO, which is your North American oscillation, and we kind of hinted at this, of this potentially slowing down, and the trend is that's exactly what's happening. So as we move towards your Thanksgiving day, we're watching this negative NAO, this NAO go negative now, and you can actually see the trend keeps it negative through the end of November and almost basically falls off a cliff once we get into December, if that kind of gives you an idea of what may be to come in December. So what's happening, what's significant about that negative NAO is going to be able to slow down this system. That means basically, in layman's terms, going to be able to tap into some of this moisture that's built up in the Pacific as well as in the Gulf. And as soon as the wind turns around, that has the lift mechanism. So you start to see some rain showers far deep south for Monday into Tuesday, but going into Wednesday, they're going to be lifting a little bit further north. So now they're going to be spreading over portions of North Texas, getting into parts of Oklahoma, getting into East Texas as that jet really starts to tap into that subtropical jet by the time we get into your Wednesday. So as we head into Thursday, this is a significant shift of what's happening. Complements of that feel of that NAO with the blocking that should start to take place. It's going to be able to slow this system down, and as it slows down, that's going to drag down some more colder air with it, and that's going to be a significant change as we head towards your Thanksgiving, and especially into Friday, into your Thanksgiving weekend. So here's the setup by Thanksgiving. This is painting a much wetter picture with the slowness of the system. It's going to be able to tap into some more of that subtropical jet type moisture down here and then have that lift. And so now it looks to be more of a chilly rain that's still taking place over a good chunk of Texas into South Texas, Central Texas, North Texas, and East Texas. All of Oklahoma, getting into Arkansas as well as Missouri. So parts of the deep south will continue to stay wet with that active subtropical jet. But look at the blue line here. Look at the Arctic high pressure digging at 1031 Arctic high, digging all the way down into almost the coast of New Mexico here. That is significant. That's going to be dragging down that colder air, and underneath that at 5,000 feet, it's got some very cold temperatures aloft. And so that is significant itself. And with that blocking tape shake, as the blocking tape shakes, then with the colder temperature aloft, that's going to be able to sink some of that to the surface, because the slowness of the system, and the more it sinks to the surface, the colder the temperatures are going to be, and the more the chillier rain you're going to be. And yes, we're talking even portions of Texas could be looking at some snow by the time we get into Friday time frame. So here's the overall setup. As that low level jet pulls into that subtropical jet, we could have that low pressure center just kind of sitting and spinning over the Texas panhandle, dumping some heavier snows. We saw a similar type setup in Oklahoma. So that's where they had that in western Oklahoma, where they topped out around 7 inches. We could be looking at a little bit type of the same type scenario kind of unfolded in these isolated areas of the Texas panhandle, and it could take shape parts of into West Texas. So I do feel we're going to be looking at some snow, even some significant snow potentially, as the system slows down, as it drops down and pulls down that 540 line. That's indication of that freezing temperatures. And by the time you wake up on Friday morning, this is the day after Thanksgiving, so a lot of people are going to be traveling. A lot of people have, plans and people over having cookouts. So this could be a high impact event spreading across for a good part of the country, and it really starts around Thanksgiving. This is Friday time frame. So as we move into Friday, here's your upper level low, parked itself over the Texas panhandle, likely over West Texas, but to the north, it's all of a chilly rain in Oklahoma, get into East Texas, and then parts of the deep south here with widespread rain coming in for a good chunk of Louisiana, into Mississippi and Alabama, heading into Georgia, as well as into Carolinas, as well as into Tennessee. So, and then here's some of the temperatures. You can actually see by the time you wake up on Friday morning where the coldest temperatures are. It's right under that upper level low. So as it sits and spins, it's going to pull down that colder air, and we're talking below freezing and a good chunk of the Rockies heading into New Mexico. And then yes, even the Texas panhandle could be right at the freezing mark, and that's the indication where a lot of that precipitation could transfer into some snow and a good chunk of the Texas panhandle, as well as into West Texas, while most of the deep south complements of that southwest winds. Look at the temperatures. You haven't actually seen this in a while. It's been at least over a week, but now the temperatures start to come back, right? So as it comes back, it pulls in the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, a little bit higher dew points as well. So as we get into Friday, going into your Saturday time frame, so we're looking at higher dew points. It's been a while since we've seen dew points in the 60s, if not upper 60s. So typically you need a little bit of a severe weather aspect if you get into your 55 degree or higher. And I do feel by the time we get into late Friday into Saturday time frame, these dew points are going to be high enough. We could be looking at some severe storms into parts of Georgia, heading into maybe Florida and this region down here as we head into Saturday. But look at that. This is some pretty impressive stuff. If this comes to fruition, it has the blocking mechanism that's upper level low with low steering currents. It doesn't even move hardly at all, and the ridge of high pressure is locked under the over the top. That sets up a Rex blocking pattern, and then underneath that low, we could be looking at some heavy snows breaking out on the northwest side of it, and then the rain into the south side of it as well. It just kind of sits and spins and festers for a day or two. And look at this setup. I mean, this is pretty significant with the slowness. You have the negative NAO turning negative that creates the blocking over there in Greenland. That sets the stage for a much slower system as the ridge slowly builds from the west to the east. And by the time we get into Friday, it could be right over the top and set up a significant Rex blocking pattern, setting up those colder temperatures, sinking further to the south, pulling in that Arctic air and sinking it to the surface and dumping it in the form of snow into parts of Texas on Friday. And it just sits and spins on Friday night. So we could literally, with that blocking mechanism set up, we could be looking at some decent, significant snows into parts of the Texas panhandle. And this could set up as far as into West Texas, right? So we'll be fine tuning this, but it'll pull in the moisture out ahead of it. So the slowness of the system has it breaking down into those heavier rains into parts of Mississippi and Alabama, heading into Georgia as you get into your Saturday morning time frame. But you can expect the winds to be up there as well, with that just kind of sitting and spinning. Here's some of the higher wind gusts of 30, 40, 45 miles an hour with that low pressure center, because so you're talking just some rain, and then, you know, some higher wind gust at times, and then the snow will be breaking out for the Texas panhandle into West Texas. But it won't be probably on the move until we get into your Saturday time frame. It loses significance of that Rex blocking as that ridge will slowly shift a little bit further east. But it pulls in, with that blocking, it pulls in more moisture from the Gulf. Look at the darker greens here. They had indications of some heavier rains, but also an indication where we could be looking at some severe storms by then, with the higher dew points down here in this region, as that upper level low will be kind of that curly Q shape swinging up through the Missouri and Tennessee Valley by then, heading into the Ohio Valley and heading up into the mid-Atlantic by the time we get into your Saturday time frame. But yes, there's a severe threat, and I feel like this is going to be probably expanded as we get into Saturday. But this is where I'm looking at for possibly some severe storms, you know, as we head into your Saturday time frame. So definitely be on the lookout for that, into parts of the Florida panhandle, into parts of Alabama, into Georgia area. But that will just continue to lift up the coast as we head into your Sunday time frame. That's also significant because that's another big travel day for this huge part of the country. And then up here, you're going to have all that instability. And look at the tight isobars really starting to tight up. You have that low pressure setting up the coast here that brings, again, that chillier rain moving up through the Ohio Valley, along the coast of the I-95 corridor, getting into New England with that heavier rain aspect. But then as it moves forward, going through possibly into Sunday, going to Monday, I look at the tight isobars, it really starts to tighten up. So I think as this gets closer, this is going to be able to pull in more snow and colder conditions on the backside as this kind of wraps around into a good chunk of New England as we get towards closer to this time frame, because right now this would be almost a week out. But that could be bringing in some higher winds as well. So we're going to have to be looking for this with this upper level low, with these higher wind gusts could be over these areas into along the I-95 corridor, getting into New England as we head into your late Sunday and Monday time frame, with all those people on the road or in the air trying to head back home after your Thanksgiving travel. But here's the setup going forward for the next week for your precipitation. So I feel like the atmospheric river is going to come back into play by the time we get into Wednesday. We're going to have impacts as far as rain goes into portions along the coast. Most of this will actually be in the form of snow, but where that upper level low really takes shape into the Texas panhandle or deep south into West Texas here, that'll wrap into this elevated moisture. This is a lot heavier rains than what we are picking up the last day, complements of that blocking mechanism that will take shape. So if you live in this part of the country, this whole area where it has the precipitation, This is the area from basically Wednesday all the way through Sunday where you're going to be impacting with your travel plans for your Thanksgiving holidays, with people coming over and all the plans going to be on the road or in the air. And then there's your potential snow. So we're going to have this coming down from the northwest all the way down into Texas. So where this sets up could be more likely into the Texas Panhandle and as far south as West Texas. But this whole area should pick up some significant snows in this area as that upper level low just kind of really creeps and slows down. Most of this will be in the form of rain, and I do feel by the time we get closer to the event, by the time we get into your Sunday, heading into Monday timeframe, once it gets up here, this will actually be showing more snow by then. And then here's the latest GFS, has that upper level low, but we're starting to get model congruency now where that system's going to be able to slow down into parts of New Mexico and far west Texas or the Texas Panhandle, dumping some of that heavier snows, and then it'll be all rain as we move forward and then transfer to some snow as we get portions into New England. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.